Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of What's Blooming. We're really lucky to have Donny Dvorin, VP Head of Sales at Brave, joining us for today's episode. Brave is a privacy-first browser that's been getting a lot of traction lately. Donny is here to tell us more about Brave and let us know what makes it different. I'll let Rob, our digital marketing strategist, lead the conversation. Take it away.
Great. Thanks, MJ. So again, I'm joined by Donny Dvorin, VP Head of Sales for Brave. So Donny, why don't you tell us what Brave is and how Brave is different from other browsers that maybe users are more familiar with?
Well, Rob, first of all, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. So what is Brave? So I like to think of it as kind of two sides. I like to think of it as from the consumer angle and then from more of an advertising marketing angle. So from a consumer angle, why you would use Brave over Chrome, let's say, is it's a lightning fast browser. And why is it lightning fast? Is that we strip out all the trackers, all the pixels, all the third-party cookies. And when you strip that all out, you actually strip out all of the advertising too. So that's the second thing, is it's a really fast browser with no programmatic ads or video ads or takeover type ads that really slow you down. And then number three is that when you strip out all of the trackers and the pixels, you end up with this privacy browser. So we are the privacy browser. And then number four is that consumers can opt into advertising and actually earn money. Basic attention token is our cryptocurrency for viewing the ads that we serve ourselves. So in a nutshell, privacy browser, really fast, doesn't track you, doesn't have ads, and you can earn. And then from an advertising perspective, what we do is we go out to advertisers and say, would you like to reach a unique audience, an unreachable audience? And 70% of all the ad dollars go back into the user's hands that had seen those ads themselves. And so there's a whole economic model that works for brands and for advertising. And I can go really, really deep into that, but I'll pause there.
And it makes me think of a term that's, I guess, gaining popularity is the democratization of the internet. And I think this plays so nicely into that, giving power back to the user.
Yeah, there's a lot of trends out there where users control their own data, users control, Bitcoin basically allows you to have, a currency that doesn't have a bank, so you own your own keys. We're not necessarily reselling data or anything like that, but we are giving users control of their advertising experience.
That's so interesting. So why don't you tell us about yourself and how you got started at Brave, your history with the company?
Yeah. So basically, I started in the advertising industry about 20 years ago, and I got really interested in the intersection of blockchain and advertising back in 2017. And in 2017, no one was really talking about blockchain or anything like that. And I went to go see a presentation by a guy named Jeremy Epstein, and he was talking about today, how there more and more users are going to want control over their data. They're going to want control over their advertising experience, et cetera, et cetera. And one company that just kept on coming up on these analyses that we were doing was Brave. And I got really close with the team at Brave. And I said, hey, if there's ever an opportunity to join in some type of sales capacity, even like a seller, I would jump at the opportunity. And then I got the call, do you want to be head of sales? I said, absolutely, throw me in, coach. And so I joined the company 2.5 years ago, and it's been awesome. When I joined, we had 5 million users using the browser. Today, we just crossed over 46 million users. We're about to get over 50 million users. I won't share revenue numbers with you, but we were in the tens of thousands of dollars in ad sales. Now we're in the millions of dollars of ad sales. So it's growing really, really fast and really nicely. All the charts that we talk about of all the products that we have, they're all like hockey stick growth charts, which is so fun to look at.
And we feel it here on our side as well. I mean, the momentum, Brave recently, we're starting to see ads for Brave browsers a little bit more. It's coming up as that cryptocurrency conversation gets louder. Brave also kind of gets louder with it. So, but I guess it hasn't always been that way, that Brave hasn't always been this buzzworthy. How, was their humble beginnings? What is the history of this browser?
Yeah, so our founder is a gentleman by the name of Brendan Ike, and he reached out to the co-founder Brian Bondi, and Brendan actually has a great history. He wrote JavaScript when he was younger, literally wrote the JavaScript code in 10 days in the 90s, and then he went on to co-found Mozilla and Firefox. And so he knows the browser history. He knows, he's got his technical chops, extremely intelligent and smart man. And about, 6-7 years ago, we basically saw that privacy was going to be a big deal within the browsers. And could there be a way to have a browser that was 100% focused on privacy? And so came up with the idea, worked on the whole economic model. How do you give users back money? Originally, they were like, well, can we give money back in Bitcoin? But it was too expensive, too cumbersome. There were a bunch of reasons why you couldn't do it. And so in 2017, there was a token offering, and basically gave users the ability to buy basic attention token, which is the currency that we use to reward users for their attention. And so, you have this triangle where it's the users, the advertisers, and then the publishers. And, there is a symbiotic way that everybody can work together. Creators and publishers are a big part of this too. When people visit their websites, they have a chance to earn BAT as well. So the model really thinks about all the players in the ecosystem.
And you mentioned your users, and obviously crypto enthusiasts make up a big segment of your user base. Is it, when advertisers are thinking of reaching Brave users, should they be thinking of one holistic audiences, or is this really segmented now? Are there really different audiences of Brave users that can be targeted?
I think it's a really different audience. We call them the unreachables. And what I mean by that, excuse me for a second. What I mean by that is that about 75% of a user's time browsing when they're a Brave user is using the Brave browser. And when they're not using the Brave browser, they're using an ad blocker. So they're not seeing ads when they're on Chrome or Safari. When they're using the Brave browser, they're not seeing any of those display, banner, programmatic ads. Now, so they're not seeing digital ads per se. 50% of them use Facebook often, so they're not seeing a lot of the Facebook type of advertising. A lot of them are not on, some of the TikToks and the Reddits and the Twitters and other, social media. People are traveling a bit less because of COVID, so they're not seeing as many billboards. And 80% of our audience are cord cutters, so they're not watching TV ads. So you have these people living on islands. You really have these 46 million people that are really, really hard to reach if you're not reaching them with the Brave browser, which is why we call them the unreachables. And this audience is predominantly male, and they very much are into personal finance, but they also are into, cryptocurrencies. Three quarters of them have bought or traded some type of crypto in the past 3 quarters. But what that really means is that they have disposable income. They have, finance. They have money. So it's a lucrative audience that is also unreachable.
And, sticking with these crypto enthusiasts that kind of Brave has served so well, do you think this audience in particular is more inherently interested in privacy, or is this also that, you're offering them cryptocurrency to use the browser and that's the value prop for them? The privacy is just a bonus.
It's a great question. I really think there's both. I think that there's privacy-centric people that are out there and they want a privacy browser. They're sick of big tech tracking them. They keep on hearing that Google and Chrome and others are tracking, and they want that privacy browser. And others are, they've been trading, crypto or buying some, Bitcoin inside of Coinbase or whatever it is for the past year or two. And then they hear about BAT and they're like, oh, what's that? And maybe they want to earn some extra tokens using BAT, or they really just want to support the ecosystem. Like there's over 10,000 different tokens on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko where you can, buy tokens. I'm pretty sure we're the only one that is a browser. So if you're going to be surfing the internet and you're going to be doing a lot of stuff with crypto, you might as well use Brave. We have our own wallet. We're integrating with Solana next. There's a lot of advantages. We have these widgets where you can do trades right on the browser. So there's a lot of advantages for a crypto user.
And I'm wondering how Brave's solution for privacy compares with what some of the other big tech companies are offering. Where Brave, it's really part of your core. I'm wondering, do you see big techs offering more as just lip service to this trend, or is there a true value from what other companies are offering?
Yeah, I'm seeing what comes first, like having a browser and then saying, oh, like privacy is a big deal now. There was a lot of, there was Netflix movies, um, and there's GDPR and CCPA and like regulation. So let's get on the privacy bandwagon. And it seems like that's what other browsers are doing, where like from our start 5-6 years ago, it was privacy from the get-go. So when you're built from privacy from the ground up, and that's part of like your ethos, you're going to be focusing on privacy. When you've already built something and then you want to add privacy to it, it's really hard to remove the tracking.
Users can earn BAT, basic attention token, for using Brave and viewing ads. So let's kind of hone in on that. If somebody is using a privacy focused browsers, what type of place can advertising really take in this world?
Yeah, so you're talking about like what kind of units we have?
What kind of units you have? Let's also talk about how can we reach people who don't necessarily want to be tracked? And, is this really an audience that we want to reach if they're signaling that maybe we value our privacy, maybe we don't want to tell you our personal details and have personal ads come back to us? So as an advertiser, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, well, I think one of the beauties of the way that matching is done is that the matching gets done on the device level. And what I mean by that is Rob is doing a lot of searches, you're browsing, you're buying stuff. That's all stored on your computer within the browser, but that data never goes back to Brave. And so what we do is we take the ad catalog for our push notifications, and every couple hours we push the ad catalog down to the browser, and the matching gets done on the browser level instead of up in the cloud where everybody can see what Rob had searched and purchased. So that's a key difference right there, is where we're doing the matches, which keeps it very private. And as far as what units we have a push notification unit. About 50% of our users are on mobile and 50% are on desktop. So we have a push notification unit that looks like your next, calendar invite or whatever it may be. We have a sponsored image, which is when you hit the new tab, the whole page is sponsored by an advertiser. You can think of it as like a homepage takeover, but it doesn't like overlay or push down content. It's just a beautiful image on the new tab. And then we just launched something called Brave News, which is there's an unlimited private news feed that just keeps scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And within the news feed, there are ads that are targeted to you. Think of it as like native ad units.
So if you want to reach everyone or close to everyone, you want those display units. And if you want to reach people in maybe a more engaged way, you want those push notifications, that news feed for the native ads, even though you might only reach 1 out of 4 users.
Yeah, those push notifications are, they get like a 9% click-through rate, like really, really good performance media, really good on the CPA or the CAC, where the sponsored image is going to be more branding. I mean, you're going to get some clicks and you're going to get, you're going to get, closer to your CPA goal, but it's more about like owning the browser for the day. It's a, higher valued unit. And ironically, because it's so big and it reaches everybody in the country, the CPMs are actually a lot lower. They could be, sub $10, around $5 versus the push notifications are, up around, $20, because they're so targeted and we have much less users. There's less inventory to go around.
And when we think of, classic KPIs that we're looking for, and, I'm thinking conversions, especially, Brave must have a slightly different way of measuring conversions, say, or tracking who is converted than, say, Google Ads or Facebook would.
Yeah. So what a lot of advertisers do is they use UTM parameters. In the UTM parameter, they can track everything. We have a beautiful dashboard that allows you to see impressions, clicks. We have our own proprietary measurement, like 10-second visit rates. So the number of users who clicked on an ad and spent more than 10 seconds on a page. we can show that. And then, of course, conversions, even providing order IDs or conversion IDs back to the advertiser so they can see exactly who, exactly which orders came from Brave.
Awesome. So, let's put ourselves in some advertisers' shoes. What types of industries would you, recommend Brave for as an ad unit? And are there any industries that maybe it's not a great fit for?
Sure. Anything that's targeting males is like good for the browser. Just we didn't control it. It's just what happened was that we launched a browser and men that are into like crypto and finance, etc., were starting to use it. So anything in the financial services category also does well because it's a very much user base with a disposable income. Auto does very well. Any of the more male centric cars, if there are if they do male or female. Anything with travel would do well as well. So yeah, gaming. Whew. Gaming is huge for us. We have there's blockchain games, there's metaverse games, there's desktop games, there's just any type of video games does extremely well because of our audience skews a little bit younger as well. So hopefully that like kind of paints a good picture. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say there isn't anything that's not a fit. I mean, even jewelry, you could say, well, is a male buying for his his female counterpart. But with that being said, things that males buy that males will use is usually do better.
Okay. Now just coming back kind of big picture, I'd love to get your thoughts looking ahead, 5-10 years down the road. What do kind of online habits resemble for your everyday user, and what does online privacy look like in the future?
Yeah. So for online privacy in the future, I think that everybody does online will be private. I mean, there's just no way about it. I mean, all the companies are moving that way. You're not going to be able to be tracked. I mean, your iPhone is much more, private than it ever was. Even Safari, like an Apple, we talked about being more private. We're private, as Brave as a browser, and so your TV in your living room. Right now it's like when you're signing up, it's like you gotta give everything away. But I think all those, the TV, your Peloton, your stereo, all of those things, they're not private today. There are some of the worst offenders out there right now, some of like the exercise equipment and things like that. But those will all become private in the future. And so I think that that's where we're going as part of it. And there was a second part of the question, was there?
Well, just, users' online habits, how are we going to approach the internet? Are we going to be inherently, say, privacy first, or will we still want the level of personalization that, allowing cookies onto our browsers and letting the Google Chromes and the Facebooks of the world know all our online habits? Are we willing to make that trade-off, do you think, or are we going to opt for privacy first solutions?
In 10 years, there won't be cookies anymore. I mean, so everything that you do online will be private. And so I don't think users will have to make a decision between one or the other. I think everything will just be private.
Fantastic. Maybe a little scary for advertisers, but for the average internet user, probably a good thing.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, marketers will just have to adapt. There'll just have to be different ways to quote unquote track users and, figure it out. So
we'll leave it on that note, I guess. So thank you so much for joining us, Donny Dvorin, VP Head of Sales for Brave Browser.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. It was a real pleasure having me on today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Very interesting conversation. And Donny, if people wanted to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so there's three things. Number one, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just search for Donny Dvorin on LinkedIn, and we'll put that in the show notes. Number two, you can reach me directly at donny@brave.com. So DONNY@brave.com. And the third, if you're an advertiser and you want to run with us, the best way is adsales@brave.com. So that's ADSALES@brave.com. So any of those three ways.
And you have a podcast as well. How can people hear you?
Yeah, so we have a podcast. Love for you guys to sign up for. It's called The Brave Marketer. And so just search for that on Apple, Spotify, all the Android stores. So it's called the Brave Marketer. And what we do is we interview marketers who've exhibited bravery in their career, took some type of risk. And when they took a risk, it paid off. And so that's what makes them a brave marketer.
I love that. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned a lot about Brave and privacy browsers. Again, if you have additional question about Brave, feel free to reach out to Donny directly. And Donny, thank you so much for doing this interview. Make sure you follow us on social media so you don't miss our next episode, and we'll see you next time.